So a few months ago, I find this chick on Instagram. I DM her and I ask her to come to a fraternity party.
Who are you talking about out there? What do I do here?
Hey, Frank! What are you fucking doing?
In Manchester, New Hampshire, a hot-tempered single dad named Frank calls his best friends Sueno and Packy from prison, informs them he's being released from prison, and asks them to meet him his auto shop with his toddler daughter, Crystal, whom they have been looking after, as her addict mother, Karen, is absent from her life. Years later, one Saturday morning, after a fight with her father, terrified and frustrated by Frank's actions, Crystal locks herself in her room and, hoping to take her mind off everything, spends the next couple of hours taking selfies and entertaining herself. After taking a few hours to think about everything and calming down, Frank patches up the hole in the wall and slowly knocks on his daughter's bedroom door to apologize for his earlier temper tantrum.
Look, I know that it's expensive. It's where I want to go.
It's not just the money.
Despite wanting to keep her close, knowing deep down that it's the best choice for his daughter's future, Frank agrees to Crystal's decision and even promises to take out a loan and pay for her tuition.
Just do it, okay? Take out loans and all that.
You know, someday I'm gonna make a lot of money, Dad. You won't have to work so hard, okay?
Then, as the duo prepares to host Sueno and Packy for Christmas dinner, like they always do, Crystal advises her father to change his clothes, wear the shirt she bought him, and look presentable for dinner. Moments later, Sueno and Packy arrive, and an excited Crystal runs out to greet them on the driveway.
What'd you cook?
Frank then puts his finishing touches on the meals, serves them, and the group gathers around the dinner table, chatting, teasing one another, and enjoying each other's company.
What? What's the matter?
No, nothing's wrong. It's just...
Hey.
Packy, what's going on?
Hey.
She says you got in.
Yeah, I get in? Did I get in?
Utterly proud of Crystal, Sueno, and Packy, congratulate her on her early admission and playfully scold Frank for giving them a scare, already picturing a very bright future for the young girl whom all the men had worked so hard to raise. They spent the entirety of the dinner cheering Crystal on and telling her how proud of her they are. Later, Sueno and Packy give Crystal tips for college.
You just pivot your wrist like this.
Hilarious. She's going to college, not a battlefield, Packy. Then, Crystal asks for a cigarette, and her father reminds her that she had promised to quit and forbids her, ignoring Sueno and Packy's playful pleas to let loose and relax. Unfazed by this, Crystal continues hanging out with Sueno and Packy.
What happened this morning?
Got into an argument. He punched a hole in the wall.
Well,
Thank you, Sensei.
Then, once Crystal retreats to her room, Frank updates the men.
Karen's coming over tonight to bring Crystal out. It's the mother of my child. Can you show some fucking
She don't
respect?
deserve respect.
All right, so do it for Crystal then.
Annoyed, Sueno and Packy apprehensively stand back, muttering obscenities to themselves, while Frank goes down to greet Karen.
Don't look directly into her eyes.
How you faggots doing?
We're doing good.
Acting like I'm the devil or something.
Unable to hide his hatred of the women whom he believes do nothing but cause Frank pain, Sueno loudly criticizes Karen for not seeing her daughter in a year. Frank remains quiet, clearly put off by the reprehensible and awkward interaction, and sensing his stress, Sueno and Packy offer to take him out, and sensing his hesitation, the duo assures him that they won't let him break his sobriety and will only get him a seltzer. Then the trio heads to the local bar, orders their drinks, and toasts to Crystal's success.
In college. I'm so proud of this, man. Did a lot back in the day.
Oh, shit. You ever change a diaper?
Yes, you do deserve to be proud, Packy. Then, Frank gets a call from Crystal asking for help and goes outside to wait for her in the parking lot. There, as he waits, Frank meets a woman named Dottie and awkwardly flirts with her. Inside the bar, Packy notices a couple of beautiful women and points them out to Sueno, who takes the lead to approach the woman and steals Packy's spotlight with his exaggerated made-up stories.
Yeah, I was like 7 years old.
Hey,
Well.
look, it's a leprechaun.
Meanwhile, outside, Crystal arrives, meets Dottie, and, after informing Frank that Karen had maxed out her credit card shopping for her, asks to borrow his credit card. As they discuss this, Karen, who's drunk out of her mind, joins them, approaches Dottie with hostility, forcing her away,
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Sorry, who are you?
and walks into the bar, leaving Frank furious. Despite being annoyed at Karen for her irresponsibility, for his daughter's sake, Frank agrees to lend the women his credit card, which delights Crystal, who delightfully thanks him. Then, to the amusement of Frank, Crystal approaches Dottie.
Hey. Yeah. You gonna get my dad your number or what?
Meanwhile, inside the bar, Packy calls Sueno out in front of the women he's trying to impress, and the duo gets into an embarrassing argument.
Called his parents at 2 in the morning because he pissed his tidy white.
Annoyed, Sueno slaps Packy, who starts to whimper and quickly apologizes. But the other guys in the bar see this and start to mock Packy and make fun of him, which forces Sueno to stand up for his friend and confront them.
Hurt your girlfriend's feelings?
Why don't you mind your own fucking business, huh?
What about you with these shoes? Where the f you get these from?
The men square up against each other, and as they proceed to get into a fight, Frank returns.
You boys here.
Listen, Crystal's here. I don't want to get into this shit.
Just as things start to calm down, Karen is pulled into the fight with one of the women, which reignites the fight. Then, as the ordeal escalates and everyone starts hitting each other, Frank gets roped in and beats a man with the crowd, and his friends cheering him, but soon loses control, and, seemingly deaf to his friend's warning to stop beating the now unconscious man, continues attacking him, until Crystal arrives and screams for him to stop. Disheartened by the fact that Crystal had seen him like that, Frank lashes out.
I fucking knew this was gonna happen. You stay away from me, and you stay away from my family, and I don't ever want to see you again.
But they are your family, Frank. Surely you don't mean it. Shaken, Crystal returns home, locks herself in the room, and hoping to take her mind off the disastrous ordeal, spends a few minutes taking some selfies. Later, Frank arrives home, and despite wanting to profusely apologize to his daughter, fails to muster his courage and, after standing outside Crystal's room for a long while trying to come up with the right words, deeply drowns in regret and shame, fails to summon the strength to proceed, and retires to his room. In the aftermath, the childhood friends spend the next 3 months in radio silence, without seeing one another, and staying on separate corners of the neighborhood. Then, 3 months later, Frank texts Packy informing him that he has been diagnosed with cancer and asks him to come see him at his shop. He then texts Sueno.
I want you to come by tonight. He's hiring strippers as an apology.
I don't want to go.
Stop being a pussy.
Then, in preparation to host his best friends, despite his sobriety, Frank buys their favorite scotch and waits for them at the shop, where Packy bikes as fast as he can.
What stage is it? Does it hurt?
I don't have cancer. You gotta promise me you're not gonna freak out.
What?
Sueno's coming over.
I don't want to see that asshole.
Because he slapped you?
You should be mad at me and not him.
Annoyed, Packy retreats to the back of the shop and locks himself in the closet. Moments later, Sueno arrives, and after teasing Frank, rushes in to see Frank's dog.
The fuck was that?
Then, Packy reappears, which annoys Sueno and starts an argument.
So you got a Chihuahua. You spent all that money on a designer Mexican toy breed.
Damn, these two can fight about anything. As the argument starts to escalate, Frank steps in.
Can't let 30 years of history go down the fucking toilet.
You talking about, Frank? You're the one who said you were done.
And I was wrong.
Then, as the men settle down, Sueno learns that it was all a ruse, and that there are no strippers joining them, and fumes.
What do you mean there's no strippers coming? I stopped. I got $30 in singles here.
I ain't fucking plans tonight. I got fucking friends.
We ain't friends?
Nah, I mean like adult friends.
Frank rushes in, hoping to prevent a fight from breaking out, but accidentally shoves Packy to the ground, upsetting him. Then, as Packy angrily storms off, Frank breaks his vow of sobriety, takes a shot, and as he tries to work out a way to make peace, Packy returns, demanding his friends stop abusing him and hurting his feelings. However, instead of sympathizing with Packy, Sueno and Frank mock his sensitivity and each other and break out in laughter.
What? What?
Laugh.
The men then turn on the fight and start enjoying themselves. Sueno then checks on the well-being of Packy's grandmother.
How the f old is she now anyway?
99, can you believe it?
And as the duo updates each other, Frank leaves for the adjoining room to prepare the steak meat. Then, the duo sees the auto shop's ad banner hanging on the wall with a picture of a 6-year-old Crystal on it, and lovingly reminisces about their golden girl's childhood and admires the bright young woman she has become.
An image captures someone's personality so good. God, is she beautiful.
From the adjoining room, listening to his friend's conversation, Frank looks out the window, sees Crystal's old toys, and silently cries as he thinks back on her 6th birthday, where the men surprised her with a toy car, had fun with her, and took a picture of her with a wrench, which they later loved and put it on the shop's banner.
Hey, Frank, you know something? I ought to get residuals for that fucking picture.
Then, Packy and Sueno tease one another.
That's an S9. I just bought it.
The S9 has a bigger screen. I hope you saved the receipt.
Then, the men go outside to cook the steaks and start swapping stories. Sueno then narrates that he recently ran into a woman he thought was his ex, spent the night with her, only to realize in the morning that she was, in fact, a different woman, and he rushed out of her apartment, never to see her again.
After she got engaged. Me and her, we follow each other on Insta.
The men entertain themselves in this unlikely story that could only happen to Sueno and ask Frank if he has started seeing anyone.
When's the last time you went on a date, huh?
Hey, matter of fact,
But before Frank can answer, he gets a call, tells them that it's from Crystal, and as the men scream their greetings for her to hear, walks inside to answer it, after asking them to keep an eye on the meat. But once inside, he answers the phone and tells the caller to double his order and let him know once he starts his way to the shop. While cooking the meat, Sueno sheepishly asks Packy to show him how Instagram works.
Everybody's getting laid that way these days. You? Let me see your phone. Here, give me your phone.
Packy agrees, takes Sueno's phone to show him, takes a picture of them, picks a filter, adds their location so that the world knows that they're hanging out with their best friend at his shop, and posts it. Then, as Packy proceeds to return the phone, it rings.
Is Karen back in town?
Just give me, yeah, she's back in town. Just give me the phone.
Are you what are you doing?
I thought you hated her guts, Sueno. Then Frank resumes the story and narrates that he had recently gone out with a single mother and had gone back to her home with her. There, as the couple tries to get intimate, the woman's 3-year-old son wakes up, calls for her, and she excuses herself to tend to her child.
so she gets off the bed and she says,
Right back. I just gotta put the kid to sleep.
Totally. You go.
she says, hey,
Still wanna
Of course, I still want to.
And leaves. Then, after waiting for a while, Frank goes to check on her and finds that she had fallen asleep in her son's bed holding him, and quietly leaves the residence, deeply affected by the sight which makes him long for such a traditional and loving family of his own.
That's a beautiful story, Frank. Tragic, but beautiful.
Then, as the men start eating, they discuss the fact that Karen's back in town, and Sueno starts giving his strong opinion on the matter.
Two things in your life that consistently fuck you up. It's Karen and it's your f***ing temper.
At least I accepted responsibility.
You want to hit me just because I told you the truth?
Knowing that Frank didn't mean the hurtful things he said in the heat of the moment, Packy watches in pain, desperately hoping his best friends will try to work it out.
Hey, Frank, it could be Crystal again. Maybe you want to get that.
Luckily, Frank gets a call and steps away to answer it, giving directions to the shop to the caller. Then, Frank hangs up the phone, takes a moment to cool off, and returns to apologize.
I'm sorry for calling your cock diseased.
I'm sorry.
Once everything settles down, Frank informs his friends that a young man named Chad Walker, whom he met playing basketball at Northeastern, is coming to sell them Molly.
Look, we're gonna party. I'm gonna spark up. Anybody else?
The trio then continues hanging out, having fun around a fire, swapping more legendary stories, and enjoying each other's company until Chad arrives in his fancy car.
Fuck you, I'll leave it up to you.
What's up, man?
It's Molly's here. I don't want him to know that I have a daughter.
Sueno and Packy tease Frank and his rookie manner of handling such discreet deals, and as he goes inside to get Chad his money, they keep the dealer company.
What kind of car you drive?
G-Wagon. Oh, hey. You guys want to give me a hit of that thing?
Oh, you don't have to ask us twice.
Packy and Sueno get along with Chad, smoke some PCP together, and enjoy themselves until Frank calls them all inside and offers Chad a glass of scotch, which he hates. Then, Chad takes a moment to take some selfies and post them on Instagram.
Let me ask, did you tag Frank's shop?
Yeah, I tagged it.
Chad hangs out with the men and becomes fascinated as Packy tells him the story of why they all love the horrible scotch they drink. During the 1986 World Series, the boys sit and watch the game in Frank's basement on a black and white TV, while their fathers, who are all avid supporters of the Red Sox, watch the game upstairs on a color TV. Then, as the game progressed, believing the Red Sox would finally break the curse and claim the title, the fathers invite the boys to join them in the coveted room upstairs, and the boys excitedly do so, as they had never felt loved and accepted by their fathers before. However, unfortunately, the game turns tide, the Red Sox lose the game, and soon the tension in the room amplifies. Hoping to avoid the angry men's wrath, the boys cautiously try to sneak out, but inadvertently run into Frank's dad, crying over the results. Frank's dad becomes furious at being caught at such a vulnerable moment and starts beating Frank. Sympathizing with his poor friend, soon Sueno jumps in and tries to help Frank, but soon his own father arrives and starts beating him. Then, seeing this, Packy's father follows suit and begins hitting his son, until Packy escapes, steals a bottle of scotch, and runs out through the screen door, causing a diversion which allows his friends to escape. Then the boys go into the woods and spend hours drinking scotch and bonding over their shared trauma.
So f***ing beautiful!
As the men continue enjoying themselves, Frank receives a text from Karen, whose calls he has been dodging for a while, threatening to call the police if he doesn't answer her call soon. So he steps away to call her back after asking his friends to entertain their guest.
Chad, you can hang out for a bit, right?
No, I can hang for a few.
Then, the duo takes Chad to the basketball court outside, and as they get to know him, he shares that his father works in the biggest law firm in Boston, which impresses them. As they don't know what it's like to have a successful father they don't have to feel ashamed of or feel terrified of. Then, as the topic changes to women, Chad explains that in this day and age, all the flirting with girls happens over social media, but warns that one should be conscious of what they post online, as it may come back to haunt them when they least expect it.
Gotta be careful, bro. You can't put that stuff out there. No, I got a fucking story for you.
Inside the house, Frank calls Karen.
Crystal doesn't want to talk to you right now, all right?
I'm in the house.
In my house? How the did you get in?
I'm trying to change. Don't f this up for me.
Meanwhile, outside, Chad continues bonding with the men.
She's really young and really cute, and I DM her and ask her to come to a fraternity party.
Naked pictures?
No. Here, hold on. She shows up and she's like famous now, right? Like she's a star. Everyone joins in, everyone.
Then the story takes a darker turn.
She finds out why. She goes back to her home, tries to kill herself.
Jesus.
The story lingers in Packy and Sueno's minds and becomes haunted by Chad's nonchalant perspective towards it. But soon, they push this aside, and following Frank's call from inside, the trio heads into the shop. There, as Chad announces that he's late and proceeds to leave, Frank offers him to stay for one more drink, hands everyone a glass, and they all take a shot.
What are you talking about out there?
Maybe just show him the pancake pic. I don't know.
A picture.
Then, to the shock of his friends, Frank slaps Chad and demands to see the pictures and hear the story. Desperate to cool down the tension, Packy blurts out that Sueno had coffee with Karen.
Yeah, we've had coffee.
So why did you meet?
Did you f her?
Did you fucking ask me that? No. Get out for you and Crystal. That's all I'm fucking doing. That's all I'm ever fucking doing.
At the mention of Crystal's name, Chad panics and tries to flee, but Frank follows and knocks him out.
You just killed Chad Walker with a wrench, Frank.
He's not dead.
Then Frank narrates that after calming down, he had gone to Crystal's room to apologize to her like he always did after lashing out. But this time, to his utter agony, his efforts were too late, and he found his precious daughter had overdosed on pills and was unconscious. Heartbroken by the story, Sueno and Packy remain frozen and quietly listen to the horror.
We're gonna kill him. There's a lot of work with the disposal.
Then, Frank reveals that the whole night had been pre-planned down to every detail, confesses that he's ready to pull the trigger and kill the arrogant young man who destroyed his precious daughter's life, and asks his friends' help to dismember his body in the all-prepped room and dispose of it. Despite being in utter agony by everything they heard, Sueno interrupts Frank, asks him to slow down so that they can think about every detail of the plan, make sure it's foolproof, and decide what to do with Chad's car and the call history between Frank and the horrible young man.
You caught him on your phone, right?
It was a burner.
Frankie, I think that we need to think here.
Then, as Sueno continues to freak out, Chad wakes up and starts begging for mercy.
Instagram! Posting on the internet. I have 2,854 followers. My father is gonna sue the shit out of you. You should have taught your whore daughter.
Psycho Chad, weren't you just begging for your life? Frank sees red, lunges at Chad, and chokes him until his friends pull him away. They then duct tape Chad's mouth to minimize his annoying arrogance. And as they try to think how to proceed in the ensuing silence, they hear banging on the door, go to answer it, are confused to see it's Karen, and try to persuade her to leave to no avail. Karen then forces her way in, demanding to know what's going on.
If you think that you can keep my daughter away from me, I swear to God I'll get a lawyer. Where the f is my kid?
Then, Frank sits Karen down and somberly details everything that happened to Crystal. Furious, Karen rushes inside with fuming motherly rage, beats Chad to a pulp, and comes back out crying until Frank comforts her.
I'm gonna cop a plea and turn myself in. Give me a half-hour head start.
before you let him go. You gotta take care of her now, Karen.
Karen then announces that they shouldn't just give up, let Chad win, and reiterates that Crystal needs her father. And after everything Chad did to her, they shouldn't also allow him to take Frank away too. She then encourages the men to work together and outsmart the arrogant young man, and the men get to thinking. Moments later, Sueno comes up with an idea. Then the group stages the scene, arranges everything, and with the help of Packy, takes a compromising picture of Chad.
Yeah, and what the fuck are you gonna do with that? It'll go viral. No, I'll tell the truth.
Maybe your friends will come up with a nickname for you this time.
Yeah.
You want to hear option 2? Ever mention this night to anyone, anywhere?
What you gonna be, Chad?
Option 2.
They then cut Chad free, hand him his keys, and tell him to leave. The disoriented young man tucks his tail between his legs and stumbles out of the shop without even looking back. After the exhausting night, the group heads to the hospital the next morning to visit the unconscious Crystal. There, everyone surrounds the bed, watching their precious girl with love, heartbreak, and desperate hope for a miracle. Then, Frank quietly whispers in Crystal's ear that her family's there to see her and is delighted to feel her squeeze his hands.